We continue today with the 50th Perek Nun of Tehillim, which is pretty exciting. Tehillim is 150 chapters, so I can't tell you in terms of words or in terms of verses if we're now completed a third of it, but in terms of chapters, we will be through a third of the Tehillim. It begins, chapter 50, Mizmor LaAsaf, a psalm of Asaf. Today we won't talk about that; it's a longer chapter. So we'll see a number of chapters that begin with these words. A psalm for Asaf. El Elohim Adonai diber vayikra aretz mimizrach shemesh ad mevo'o. God spoke and He summoned the world from the east to the west, right? Mimizrach hashemesh, from the place where the sun rises, ad mevo'o, until it sets. Mitzion michlal yofi Elohim hofia, from Zion. Perfect in beauty, God appeared. We talked about, I believe, in the last chapter, previous chapter, 2 chapters ago, how we don't have Yerushalayim mentioned very often. We have Zion. We talk about Zion, Mount Zion, city of Zion, much more back when Zion was an okay word to say. I made the same joke a couple of days ago. Yavo Eloheinu v'al yecherash eish lefanav tochel usvivav nish ara me'od. Let our God come. And do not fail to ask God. Our God is going to come. God is a devouring fire comes in front of Him. A storm around Him fiercely, right? If God is coming to Zion, if we're inviting everybody to come, it's not going to be a simple thing, because when God comes, all sorts of stuff occurs. Yikral shamayim mi'al v'al haaretz ladin amo. He summons the heavens above and the earth for the trial of His people. Isfuli chasidai. Bring in God, in the sense of saying, bring in my righteous one, those who are devoted, those who are chasidim, those who make a covenant with me through sacrifices. Then the heavens proclaim God's righteousness, because He is a God who judges. That's what God is. God is a trustworthy and a righteous judge. And so here, right, the heavens are proclaiming God, and they're asking God to come in. Shim'u ami va'adabeira, Yisrael va'idabach Elohim Elohecha anochi. Okay, so here we have this sense, this idea, exactly what it means. Talk about Yerushalayim. God is in Zion, and God is calling everybody to come in front of Him. And there's going to be a judgment. And now God speaks to His people, right? So listen, my people, I will speak. Israel, I will testify for you. I am your God. Lo al zivachecha ochichecha va'olatecha l'negdi tamid. When I'm going to be mochiach you in verse 8, when I'm going to censor you, when I'm going to, say such nice things about you, it's not going to be about the sacrifices. It's not going to be about your burnt offerings, which you always bring to me. Every day there is a karban tamid. The last word of that verse 8, tamid. Every day there were 2 sacrifices, a morning sacrifice and an afternoon sacrifice brought by Bnei Yisrael. There were many other sacrifices, but that was the obligation of a regular day. God says, that's not what I'm going to scold you about. Lo akach mi beit chapar, mi leotecha atudim. I don't need any of your bulls. I don't need any of your he-goats from your estate, from your pens. Keep your animals in your pens. Keep your animals in your barns. Don't worry about that. Kili kol chayato ya'ar behemot ba'arei aleph. I don't need your animals. I have every animal of the forest, all the beasts of the mountains. And interesting, here, b'harei aleph, the word, what does aleph mean? Does it mean in the mountains of the thousands? Does it mean you're sort of an aleph can mean like an aluf, can mean like a clan, all of the clans of animals that come together. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who looks at this verse and thinks ha'elef lecha Shlomo, thinks of back to Shlomo HaMelech, who brought God 1,000 sacrifices every single day. And the questions there of the excess of Shlomo. The excess Shlomo is his big table with all the retinue and all the people around him. And in one way it looks great and respectful, and the other way it was too much. It was excess. It was too much. God says here, I don't need your sacrifices. I have the Aleph. I have whatever I need. I have this ridiculous number that is beyond what any of you could give to me. So I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to look at you and wonder whether or not you've given me sacrifices. Yadati kolof harim, we're in verse 11. Viziz sadai imadi, I know every bird. All the creatures of the field are subject to me. I might have made you man and told you that you are in charge of the Ofa Shamayim, Behema Ta'aretz, Dagei Ayam. You can go down into the sea, you can go up into the sky, and you are in charge, man. But right, Adam, Eve, all of you humans who came from them, just know in reality, I am the one who is in charge of all these things. Pasuk Yud Bet, Im erav lo omar lach, kili tevelum lo. Were I hungry, I wouldn't tell you, for mine is the world and all it holds. And this is, this is a fascinating chapter in terms of the question of sacrifices. We have, of course, commandment of sacrifice of karbanot in the Torah, the significance of it, the centrality of it is the place around which the Mishkan encamps, the Yerushalayim, where we bring our sacrifices. But we know that over and over again, we have prophets who say, most famous one being the opening chapter of Yeshivas, but we have it in Yirmiyahu, we have it in a number of different places where God asks the question, do I really need sacrifice? Is that something that is significant? Is that something that's important to me? And over again, we know that in many ways the answer is no. And so here too, God is saying, at least in this chapter, what's being said to us is, I don't really need those sacrifices. I have my own. Continue 13, do I eat flesh of the bulls or drink the blood of the he-goats? Right? And the sacrifices, they're really for me. Zvach le'elohim toda, v'shalem le'elyon nidarecha. Sacrifice a offering of thanks to God and pay your vows to the Most High. And there, at least to me, it seems what God is saying is, right, I'm not concerned about your actual bulls, your actual goats, or the doves, or whatever, the pigeons, whatever it might be. What do I want? I want deeds. I want goodness. That's what it needs to mean. I'm not the only one who says that's the classical, commentaries understand it this way. What I want is not the animals. The sacrifices are just a purpose. It's just a means to get you to be close to me, to then live the ideal life of kindness and goodness and righteousness. So what I want is, yes, I want thanks. And I want you to be committed to what you do. Ukraini, we're in verse 15, Pasuk Tedvav, Ukraini biyom tsara, achaletzcha utichabdein. And call upon me in your time of trouble, and I will rescue you, and you will honor me. So yes, I want this relationship, but it shouldn't be, I have to bring a sacrifice every day. And it's not about sacrifices. It's about the relationship that one has and the way that you act. And just think about it from the perspective, I don't know, a friend or whatever, somebody insults you and then they bring you a present, right? Is the present making me happy? The spouse has to wonder, why did he buy me this thing today? What did he do wrong that my spouse is buying this thing to me? That, in a sense, is what God's saying here. I'm not interested in your bull. I have enough bulls. I've got lions and tigers and bears, and I've got every animal that you can imagine. I don't need their blood to drink. I don't need their spilled on the altar. I want kindness, and that's what's supposed to be the sacrifices are supposed to come around. So if the sacrifice, one thing we understand, there's a carbon chatat. There's somebody who sins and they feel badly about their sin and they bring their sacrifice. But somebody who is a habitual sinner, an evil, a bad person, and then once in a while, comes and brings the sacrifices. That's what God doesn't want. He continues with that idea here in verse 16, Pasuk Tetzayin, V'lerasha amar Elohim, ma lecha l'saper chukai, v'tisav riti alai picha. God says to the wicked, who are you to speak of my laws and my mouth and the terms of my covenant? What do you say? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. What are you talking about? Me and you and all these things. Seeing that you spurn my teachings, my discipline, you brush my words aside, you throw them, you throw them to the side. You're not interested. They're litter, they're garbage that you get rid of. Imra'ita ganav vatiretz imo v'im minafim chelkecha. When you see a thief, what do? You get together with the thief. The thief is your friend. That's who you, in a sense, hang out with. And you throw your lot in with who? With the mina'ef, with the adulterer. Don't act like you're my friend. Don't act like you're living my ideas and ideals. That's not who you are. That's not what you are. So don't come with a sacrifice to me. It's not interested. Picha, we're in verse 19. Shalachta bira'a v'lishoncha tatzmid mirma. You devote your mouth to evil, the yoke of your tongue to deceit. You are busy maligning, speaking evil of your brother, defending the son of your mother, right? Your own family, everybody you're after, so don't come with me to a sacrifice. Let me just pause here for a second. Interestingly, it's a very bad description of the Rasha. Somebody, right? Their own brother, their own, what is it? Their own. You're right. Your brother. Evil is coming from your mouth. You're a thief. You're an adulterer. You throw my laws away. You don't care about them. And to me, that's somewhat heartening, I would say. And it's part of the importance, at least to me, of karbanot. Karbanot. One of the great things about karbanot is we have this karban chatat. You sin, you might think you're banished. You're not allowed to go through the temple. You're not allowed to go anywhere near God. The Torah is just the opposite. The Torah says you bring a karban chatat. Don't, just because you sinned doesn't mean you can't come close to God. Doesn't mean you can't bring a sacrifice. The Torah, the idea of the sinner of the Torah is such a terrible person. That's the person who can't bring the karban. That's the habitual sinner. That's somebody who's always sinning. Somebody whose sacrifice is garbage and a lie. It's not somebody who made a mistake and sincerely forgives their mistakes and brings a sacrifice. And I think that's very important about karbanot in general. And I think it's really said to us in this chapter. God says, I don't need your sacrifices. If you bring it, it's okay. It's good if you're genuine. But if you're a real sinner, if you're somebody who doesn't keep their commitments, and somebody who just lies, and somebody who speaks evil of others and doesn't even to their own siblings, doesn't even demonstrate, then there's no point in coming. Continuing in verse 21, Eile asita v'cherashti dimita heyota yecha mocha uchichacha ve'ercha le'enecha. If I failed to act when you did this thing, you would think that I was like you. And so now I'm opening my mouth and I'm telling you, chiding you, censoring you, scolding you, and telling you what you've done wrong. Binu nazot shochechei Eloha. And so those who are not thinking of God, those who are unmindful, those who think they can get away with anything and do whatever they want, which seems to be what so many of you believe, listen to this. Be mindful. Understand that this is the reality. I am not going to save you. Said before, I'm going to save you. The people who are sincere, the people who listen to my charge, people who listen to me and then call out to me, I will come to save you when you're in a difficult place. But the people who just bring me sacrifices, but ignore everything else about me, about what I stand for, and about kindness and goodness and decency and equity, I don't need your sacrifices. Zoveach, last verse, Toda yichab danani, excuse me, v'sam derech, erenu b'yesha Elohim. He who sacrifices of thanks offers honors to me, right? So again, the Todah is a type of sacrifice, karban Todah, karban of thanksgiving. But here it's less about the actual animal, and it's more about the sacrifice that a person makes to keep their commitments and to be kind and to be genuine and to be decent, whatever words you want to be. That person offers honor to me. That person is going on a road. That person is going to see the salvation of God. Erenu, I will show that person Yeshiva, and that person is going to be saved by God. And so here, right, we have again a chapter we've seen many times where we've discussed a topic that's very important in the Tanakh, the idea of sacrifices, of karbanot, coming close to God. Major questions: is that what God really wants or not? Is for the human? Did God want a temple? Did God not want a temple? Going back to all the way the book of Shemot, is it just after the Egel HaZahav that God says to bring a temple? Does God really want sacrifice? All these questions that are significant questions. The prophets, even though sacrifices are important, we have Yeshaya and Yomi and so many of the others who say God doesn't need your sacrifices. Well, the issue is the hypocritical nature of many people, the people who in public bring their sacrifices, the fanciest bull, the fanciest this, have the shiniest esrog box and the biggest pair of tefillin and whatever it is, but are really just throw away everything else of God's commands and throw away everything else that God stands for. And that's here is what the prophet says. That's here what the Mishorer here says. We don't need that. So you can sing this song and you can understand, as we have discussed, just yet another sort of discussion of the question of sacrifices. where do they fit in? And at least, again, from this chapter, as we've seen in many other places, sacrifices have their place. You come to Yerushalayim, you bring your carbon, shows your commitment, God, shows you're able to, right? You care about something, you throw your money into it. But it only matters if it is reflective of your larger behavior, of the way in which you interact both with God. And while it doesn't say it as much in this chapter, certainly does in the description of the Rasha, and in your interaction with your fellow human beings.